got my friend John LaFront here with Elevia. I screwed up the name last year. I don't know what I
You
called it.
nailed it this year.
Nailed it. And then we're gonna have John, and then we've got an interview with Kevin McKay from Cremation Recycling. Then we're gonna get into our panel with travel plan and live streaming, which is gonna be good because there's been some questions on that. I do want to address. There's a question: when will recordings be sent out? Recordings will be out by the end of the week for day 1 and day 2, so you'll get all of that this week to be able to watch back through. All right, John. What? Let's start with this. Let's go. I'm gonna softball it. You talked about turning pain into purpose on our in Elevia doing that, but let's talk about your personal story of how you did that and how Elevia was born and why.
Yeah, I mean, it's at the heart and soul of why Elevia and then subsequently For Grief were created. When I was 21 years old, my dad was diagnosed with brain cancer. He was 43. I'm the oldest of 7 kids. Fought cancer for 3 years, and he eventually passed away when he was 46. And that obviously was a massive magnitude event in my life.
Yeah.
And I just have a deep desire to do purpose-driven work. And, you know, we're a very traditional family, did traditional service, and that was all fine. And then you just fall off of a cliff. And I thought, well, maybe that was just us. And then with time, you come to realize that that is kind of the funeral experience for many families, is that, you know, funeral professionals do an amazing job of that time of death and when the service happens, but that baton pass or pointing them in that right direction, just the ball had been dropped there. And that was when I said, let's dive in and let's do something about this. And then we've been on a journey ever since, and now helped over 1 million people navigate that first year after loss.
Wow. All right. Just tell us what Elevia does.
So Elevia really is a consumer experience platform, is the way I would describe it. We are different than other consumer experience businesses that are out there that serve other industries in the sense that we have live humans. We're powered, obviously, by technology to do it in mass and at scale, but the heart and soul of what makes Elevia so special is the one-on-one human connection. We have actual live responders, and if I ever need a boost in my day, I just dive into the queue and I watch our amazing team navigate all of those really difficult conversations on behalf of our funeral home partners. And so it's that connection, but then we take that connection and we amplify it to solve a lot of problems. We talked in the panel about Google reviews. We do a lot of grief support through our For Grief campaigns. We've now added estate settlement solutions. We have surveys. We invite people to events. We can do pre-need messaging. Our biggest campaign of the year is during the holiday season. We had over 600,000 messages in our system just in December alone. So really the sky's the limit. We're most known for aftercare, but our partners that have been with us for a while, I tell everyone, it's milk before meat. You know, let's start with the basics, but once they understand the basics of the program, their ideas just become illuminated, and then we can look and get really creative with it and say, how else can we do these same things, but to solve other problems that you have?
So when we work with funeral homes, one of the things we do is look through Google reviews, and
Yeah.
there's a name for your partner support.
Elizabeth. Yeah.
Elizabeth.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's cool because Elizabeth typically is the highest ranked employee at most of the partners
She
that
is,
you work
yeah.
with.
Yeah.
It's funny because we'll see that name in Google reviews, and the funeral home's like, yeah, we don't have anybody Elizabeth that works here. That's our Elevia.
It's a dead giveaway.
That's
If
great.
you're looking to see what service they're using, yeah.
It's super cool though, but that talks to the experience that the consumer's having.
Yeah.
And you said customer experience. Why is that? Why should that be valuable to a funeral professional? Why do they care about customer experience?
I mean, that's the world that we live in. Think of the type of products and services that you use today. It's not all just about price, right? It's also about the experience. I tell everybody I'm a avid Delta fan. I travel a lot for work and for pleasure, and Delta is the best experience. And so I don't actually go price shop a lot of flights because I know that Delta is going to take care of me. The flights are going to be consistent. They will be on time, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that we do a lot of that. And the world that we live in now, it's increasingly coming in that direction because technology can also curate experiences for people. And so we can both go on the same platform, TikTok being an example, you and I love talking about that, and have totally different experiences based on the type of content that we engage with, and it's curated, and we can both spend the same time there doing that. And so when it comes to funeral service and how we evolve that, it needs to be tailored to the experience of that customer. They will pay for that. And if it is an amazing experience, they will become your raving fan. Then you need to capture that magic and spread it out in the many different omni-channels that you can.
Omni-channel, that's the word of the day. Yesterday was AI, today is omni-channel.
Yep.
So I want to, you and I did a podcast interview a few months ago. You guys served your 1 millionth family. You now partner with over 1,500 different funeral home partners. From serving over 1 million families, what are some of the trends that you're seeing from the family expectation?
Oh, well, it's really interesting. When we do the text messages, for example, I am my mind is blown that the amount of appreciation that the family has for the text, just one text. And they're like, I can't believe you took the time to reach out to me 3 weeks after this. No funeral home has ever done that for us before. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I mean, because it's so simple, right? It's seemingly so simple, but it's that powerful. And it's those little, subtle differences that make all the difference in the world to these grieving families. And so their expectations are low, but when you then talk to them, because you now have an established relationship of trust and you have the right medium in which you can communicate, then the box opens and all of a sudden the floodgates are there and you can learn so much about what they wish they could do or what they would like to do for themselves, or it's all there. And so we have access to that treasure trove of what our future business models need to look like in the next 10 years. But we've got to do the listening to that and just be really intentional. But the data and the answers are right there. The consumers are more than happy to give it, but you just got to do it in the right way in the right time.
So, I mean, Elevia really started as an aftercare company, and you were the first to go the text message solution and engaging families. What have you learned through that process? One, two, you have families that text Elizabeth at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., all times, like months after.
Oh, yeah.
So, talk about that experience in itself, what you've learned through the process of serving 1 million families.
I've been so grateful that the way my brain works is I just put myself in the shoes of a grieving family. I am an aftercare family in that I lost my dad, and I go, how would I like to be communicated with? How would what things do I wish the funeral home would have done? And that was kind of where text messaging came about. When we first went that route, there was a lot of criticism on it. At first was like, oh, that's so casual. Why would you do that? That's spammy. And then, from the learning standpoint, it's like sticking to your gut on that and going, no, it's human. It's the world in which we live. Here we are 7 years later, and text messaging is still really, really strong, where we're sitting at about a 50% response rate with the campaigns that we do. And sure, we're still getting spam on our phones from politicians or businesses that are trying to give us business offerings and things. But generally speaking, we still all stay on top of our text messages way more than any other medium, right? We stay on top of that. And if you can do that effectively, and again, I can't emphasize enough, human, then it is just so insanely powerful, and I've just there's an art to it for sure, and it's subtle. But our team is obviously now doing millions of messages. We're very proficient at that. We're able to do it just as an extension of our partners, and that's really awesome too. I think that they don't need to hire and train staff and stay on top of all of those details. We can literally just amplify their impact in a very human way, thanks to technology, but the power of human connection.
Well, and that human connection has allowed you to bridge the gap for different conversations. And you said on the marketing panel that aftercare is kind of the new pre-need. Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a bold assertion, but I just feel like aftercare had been that afterthought, and now there's just so much opportunity, and the data clearly shows that that's the case. The industry as a whole has been just hesitant, and I think it's because of the sensitive nature of grief and loss that they feel uncomfortable having those conversations. But again, if you can lean into it, the power of the transcripts of all these text messages, it can embolden you to do a little bit more and to expand and think beyond just the service itself and the products that are there. I think we do tons of emphasis on the general price list and what's the price of the casket or the urn or this, that, and the other. But again, at the end of the day, if we look at this is a human relationship business, yes, we're taking care of needs that do need products and services, yeah. But if we can look at it as this journey, and how can I be a trusted advisor, a steward, a helpmeet to guide you in this next chapter of your life, then the opportunities are endless. And I think it can be that full circle moment too, where it can still go back to then driving pre-need. Of course, I'm not saying that we should neglect that, but I just think that there's way more emphasis that needs to be there. And progressive funeral homes are going to get really curious about that and say, what can I do so that I can stay relevant in this family's life beyond just the funeral?
I love that. All right, I'm going to ask you this. This was not on your list of questions, so I'm throwing it out. Define aftercare. Like, I feel like we throw aftercare around like confetti. What does it mean?
Yeah, I mean, I ask that question in virtually every meeting I ever have with a funeral home, because I just say, what are you doing for aftercare? And it's bad. I mean, it's just it's what I would say aftercare is for the profession at large is like this monkey on your back that you don't know what to do with is what aftercare has become. It needs to be something. And so there's a lot of people that will just throw spaghetti at the wall and try to see what sticks, or they will pay a minimum amount to check it off of a list and say, there, I did that, and we can wash our hands of it and move on to the next case that's there. What aftercare should be, which maybe isn't the question that you asked, but I think it is, what is in line with your purpose, your vision, your values, and it can be expansive beyond that, but it's getting the family to the next safe spot in their journey. We do ourselves and the families a massive disservice if we just let them fall off of the cliff. We can solve a lot of problems if we can guide them at least into a trusted whatever that is, whether it's with grief professionals, et cetera, et cetera. I just think that that's our stewardship and our responsibility. If we do right by the families, we're going to make sure that that transition happens as smoothly as possible with great partners along the way.
John, thank you. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being a part of this. You've been a part of the UnConference
since the beginning.
Since the beginning, yeah. You were one of the first 10.
Yep.
So that's awesome, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thanks, man.